Vine writes, "Who will find peace with the lands? The future of humankind lies waiting for those who will come to understand their lives and take up their responsibilities to all living things. Who will listen to the trees, the animals and birds, the voices of the places of the land? As long as the long-forgotten peoples of the respective continents rise and begin to reclaim their ancient heritage, they will discover the meaning of the lands of their ancestors. That is when the invaders of North America will finally discover that for this land, God is red." It's interesting. I've read that quote 100 times, and I've never noticed that says, "As the long-forgotten peoples of the respective continents rise and begin to reclaim." He's talking about the whole earth. I've never noticed that.
What does that mean to you as a European? I'm curious.
Well, I think that's one of the main reasons I am so excited and also petrified for this conversation, because over the last year, due to another mentor and friend, Shaleta Maori, Mokopona, a grandmother of the Waitaha people in New Zealand, she challenged me. She said, "How can you meet us until you meet yourself?" is more or less what she said. And so I've dove headlong down a path of remembrance into my own ancestral lineage and my own ancestors and my own people. And so when I read that, right, I am at one moment inspired to, as he says, reclaim the ancient heritage in our respective continent, right? To relearn these ancient languages, to look at our past, to see how colonization has ravished our land so that we can then pack it up and ravish shores. Like that to me is the last year and maybe even the next life of my mental capacity. But then on the other hand, I'm not in Ireland. I'm not in Western Europe, right? My great-grandfather left during the potato famines and colonization of England of the 80s and 50s into Irish countrysides and all of that. And so I live here now. And so on the other hand, it's how do I, as a Western European transplant that didn't ask to be here, become kin with this land, right? With the God of this land, with the people, the land itself, etc. And so I'm both inspired and unbelievably perplexed and confused by the statement.
Vine also in that work, and I'm going to have to paraphrase because I can't recall the exact verbiage, but he was quoting Chief Luther Standing Bear of the Lakota people, who was a chief in the 1920s. And he's upset about language that he was hearing from Americans about the land. And again, I have to paraphrase, but he said they call this land a wilderness because they do not understand the contours of her rocky spine. Their blood and bone have not been in the land long enough for the mother to recognize them. Do they not miss their own sacred mountains or sacred waters? And so that is a notion that I explored. I know I'm not doing it justice to what he actually said. That's how I interpret it in my heart. But it speaks of a relationship that I refer to as by blood and bone, meaning that when our temporal bodies pass, Indigenous peoples widely believe we should be interred into the ground, not cremated. And I think that tradition goes to the fact that our blood and bones, our DNA, are going back to the mother. And she knows us that way. Any peoples who have been here less than, we'll say 300 years, we can say 500 and be generous. Should they not look to the peoples who have been here for tens of thousands of years to understand this land and what the relationship to this continent is supposed to be? For me, everything begins and comes back to and ends with where Vine left us with his teachings. And by God is red, I believe, at least to me, that's what he was referring to, was to understand that at the heart of Indigenous religion, if we can use that term, it's all about sacred geography and all about learning to respect the land and to love her as one would love their own mother. Anything less than that religion, in my opinion, is not going to be enough to enable us as human beings to prosper in these lands.